I am 35 years old. My wife is 35 years old and mother of three is cheating on me and she thinks I don't know anything. What to do now? I don't even know how to start all of this. I feel like I will faint. I am married for my wife 9 years, together 11. We are both from Europe, but not from the same country and currently live in Asia. We live in Asia. Last 10 years, but in this country we are living last 8. We have 3 kids, M8, M6, F3. My wife is not working since our first son was born. I have permanent residence of the country where we live, and she and my kids are allowed by the law to stay with me even though they are not citizens and she is not working. Marriage is in my eyes pretty good. We had some fights in these 9 years, but nothing special. I work 5 days per week from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. She never told me she feels lonely or not loved or bored. She has her routine. Oldest son goes in the school, younger son in the preschool, and my daughter goes in the kindergarten. She drives them every day to school and picks them after. Makes lunch and waits me. We would go on vacations, trips, holidays, dates every weekend. I have never ever thought she is doing something behind my back. We also have open phone policy, but I don't remember when I checked her phone before all of this. I don't think I've used it 5 times in my life. This Wednesday I came in our house and parked the car outside. I don't think she heard me, but I heard her talking with someone how she misses that person and can't wait to see it this week. I don't know, did she hear me or saw my car, but literally 5 seconds after she said that she hanged up the call. I asked her who was that, and she said it's one of her friends who is currently on the trip. To be fair, I didn't suspect it was AP. I know I am an idiot, but I couldn't imagine that. Also, that friend was really on the trip, which I know, but the things were off. She was trying that day too much. She was always nice and was in a good mood, but that day everything was a little bit too much. I had really weird feeling, but I said I will wait next day, and I'm probably making things in my head. I came at work on the Thursday and was just asking myself, am I paranoid or what? It bothered me. Why did she end the call immediately when I was in the house if that was her friend? During the day I called her and asked where is she? She said she's in the house, but I heard noises around her. I seriously thought she is cheating on me. I left the work and jumped in the car and went to my house. It's about 30 minutes drive. When I came, she was not there. I called her again and wanted to ask her again, where is she, but didn't want to look suspicious, so I asked her, can she look some things in the house? And while she was on the call, she was saying she is checking those things. I knew then that she is cheating. I came home and she was lovely as always, wanted to go out with me and kids later. I seriously don't know how I remained calm then and how I didn't kick her out immediately. And I pretended the rest of the day that I am just tired. Yesterday I told everything to my best friend. He was furious why am I waiting and that I should confront her right away, but I didn't have any evidence. I said I will look at her phone and laptop when she goes to sleep. I came home, she behaves good, we even had sex. I think if I stay under the shower 10 months it will not be enough. I wasn't in the mood and she asked me is everything okay, and I said it's just too much stress at work. She hugged me and went to sleep saying everything is okay. During the night I checked her phone. I came home, she behaves good, we even had sex. I think if I stay under the shower 10 months it will not be enough. I wasn't in the mood and she asked me is everything okay, and I said it's just too much stress at work. She hugged me and went to sleep saying everything is okay. During the night I checked her phone. I came home, she behaves good, we even had sex. I think if I stay under the shower 10 months it will not be enough. I wasn't in the mood and she asked me is everything okay, and I said it's just too much stress at work. She hugged me and went to sleep saying everything is okay. During the night I checked her phone. They were physical at least 4-5 times. She sent him so much nudes almost all during the morning when she is alone and without kids near her. It seems this is going on for about a month. I have no idea how did they meet. She was going out last month sometimes, as she would say, on girls' nights, and I never checked her. Probably then somewhere. She was initiating meetings and conversations almost every time. He either don't like her enough or acts like he doesn't care, so I think she feels that and tries a lot. They had sex 2 times during the evening when she told me she is with her friend and rest of the times in the morning at his place. When I was in the house 2 days before, she wasn't with him but wanted to be, but he said, he is busy, and she was already in the city. I said to myself, I will not say anything to her. We woke up today, I wasn't working. She wanted to spend time with me, but I was in my home office most of the day thinking, how TF can this happen to me? I went tonight out on the dinner with my best friend and showed him everything. To be honest, I have no idea what to do right now. I will definitely divorce her. OFC, I will contact Lauer tomorrow. Now it is late night here, even though it's Sunday. My biggest problem is that we live in the foreign country, on the different continent. I have feeling if we divorce, she will go back in her country with kids. I can't allow that. House, both cars are all in my name and paid by me. We have in the joint account significant amount. I have my own bank account where I have savings. She doesn't have her own account. I also have one house and one property in my country that my grandparents gave me during our marriage. It's in my name. Now what to do? I can't stand near her anymore. I want to confront her. Do I confront or talk with AP? Maybe he has GF or wife. Doubt it. Do I kick her out of house or do I leave? Obviously, if we don't have kids, everything would be easier. But I love my kids more than anything, and I will fight for them staying here. I will also make DNA tests even though I am pretty sure they are mine, but you never know. Good Lord, I can't believe what I am writing. Anyway, any advice is more than welcomed. I only said this to my best friend. I am too embarrassed to say this to anyone else. I plan to confront her today, Sunday. Me and my wife are both from Europe, not from the same country. We are 11 years together, 9 years married. We met in my country. Then after a year of relationship, I received the job offer in Asia. She went with me. But since we weren't married, she couldn't get proper visa. She didn't work at that time. She was flying out and flying back in the country, and she was on tourist visa. About a year after we moved in Asia, we married there. And then year after she married me, we moved in another country in Asia where we lived last 8 years. So 10 years in total in Asia, lived first 2 in one country where we had wedding. Last 8 years in a country where we are currently now. A lot of you ask me where exactly AP lives. I am not sure if AP lives here whole year or not, but I think he does. It's a huge city, and there are a lot of foreigners here, and his apartment is in a downtown area where there are a lot of foreigners. Also, a lot of you asked me to give her another chance and go on the MC because of kids. I respect your opinions, and everyone is different. Someone can forgive 10 years affair. Someone can't forgive innocent texting with unknown man. I don't forgive something like this. I don't know what needs to happen for me to consider R with her. If I was bad husband, if I didn't take care of her, if our sex life was dead, if she ever told me she is not happy, I would at least understand why she did that. But it is quite opposite. Sex life 4 or 5 times per week, she is always smiling and literally, since I know her, says she is happy. We always spend time together. She never avoids me or becomes angry at me. So, yeah, my answer is nitrogen monoxide. Only if my kids beg me and suffer so much, I might live with her for some time, but I will never ever touch her again. I called the Lear here today. Told him I really want to meet him and I can pay more since it's a Sunday and I assume it's his free time. Lauer was really nice on the phone and we met after the lunch. I showed him and explained him everything. The news are this. All the assets I have here are completely mine. She doesn't have any rights on that currently. She is on spousal family visa here, doesn't work, not a citizen while I have permanent residency. Since everything have been paid by me and everything is on my name, I am the owner of everything. All the money in the bank is mine. He advised me to take all the money from the joint account and transfer it to other bank account where she doesn't have access. Joint account is on my name, but she has credit debit cards and uses it daily for everything for the house, kids her. So technically she doesn't have any right on that money. Cars are same story because they are all in my name and paid by me with clear evidences that I paid for it. The bad news are about the most important thing, KIDS. Since I repeat again, she is on the spousal visa. If we divorce, she can't stay here anymore. She needs to find the job or be on tourist visa. She can't use tourist visas forever, and sooner or later someone at the immigration will stop her and deny her the entry. My kids can stay with me on the family visa. Things become very tough right here about divorce. Basically, 4 countries are involved. 2 home countries, country where we married each other, and the country where we are now. If we divorce in Asia, there are big chances I will be the primary custody parent. At worst, we will share the custody. But if we divorce in Europe, I am basically fucked. And most likely I will have to return if I want to be near my kids. He also told me about the idea that I offer her some assets or money to make a deal that kids stay in the Asia with me, but I doubt she would accept that. If I kick her out of the house and police gets involved, I won't have problems. Since OFC, I have proofs I am the father. Even if police gets involved, kids will stay at my house. Passports are on safe, and she doesn't know where I hid them. Lawyer told me to make DNA tests for the kids and to not leave the house so my wife can stay with them. I will do DNA tests tomorrow. In the meantime, he will start making everything about the divorce. After we get results from the DNA tests, she will be served. All in all, very tough and complex situation, but I will fight. I talked also with the lawyer from my home country. He told me if my wife somehow takes kids from me and goes back into Europe while we are still not divorced, I need to file the report on the police immediately in country where we live, and more importantly in my home country. Since both of our home countries are in the European Union, laws are very similar. If she does that, police will be at her door very soon, so that's good. I didn't confront her. She was actually mad at me most of the day because I went out to meet the lawyer and I spent time in my home office, and according to her, this is the day for us. I seriously don't know how I contain myself to not tell her anything. She is last 2 days at home. Probably she waits tomorrow to call the AP. I didn't confront her. She was actually mad at me most of the day because I went out to meet the lawyer and I spent time in my home office, and according to her, this is the day for us. I seriously don't know how I contain myself to not tell her anything. She is last 2 days at home. Probably she waits tomorrow to call the AP. Tomorrow I will make DNA tests for all the kids. Lawyer told me he will call me with all details for the best options for the divorce. I will ask for some free days at work, and after that I will confront her and AP. Lawyer told me to record everything he says. Thank you so much for your messages and comments. Your advice has helped me a lot. Thank you once again. Story 2. My wife, 29 years old, emotionally cheated on me, 27 years old. How do we move forward from here? Been together for almost 10 years. Met at university on the same course. She was an international student. And she subsequently found work afterwards and stayed to live in the country. She first rented alone and then subsequently moved in with my immediate family after a few years. Fast forward a few years, we then got married and we now have a 1-year-old and had plans to purchase a house of our own. Up until now, she was my rock, the one and only person I completely trusted with my life, and the soulmate I wished to spend the rest of my life with to build a beautiful family. Not to say my family suck, but they have their priorities, and I quickly learned that I'm not the most important sibling, lol. She was essentially my best friend, not just only my wife. The issue at hand. Once off maternity leave, she had returned to work, which caused her a lot of stress due to changes in management. She found support in the form of a senior colleague who she says has been really supportive and helpful in the transition. Back to work. This I can understand as we are in the same line of work, and I personally know the stresses she is under, especially within the company she works in. My problem is that they text each other in the early hours and late at night, with the odd call at night or when waking. I am not always present at those times due to varying bedtimes and wake up, but I have seen the call logs. So far, she says there hasn't been anything that has completely crossed the line, i.e. no kissing, sex, sexually suggestive texts, etc., the furthest being that they miss each other, and him telling her she's pretty. I had confronted her twice about this situation and said directly to her, I don't know what is going on between you two, but I don't like it if you wish to break up with me and pursue another guy. Tell me first, at the very least, and we'll either try and work things out or I'll step aside because at least you are honest. She held my hand and promised, oh, don't laugh, Pauls. I know this sounds so soppy, that nothing is going on and I don't have anything to worry about. Over the next week or two, I catch her texting the guy as she hides her phone and introduces a subject of conversation to divert my attention. I don't confront her at any point. The final straw was when one morning after our little one woke up a tad earlier than usual, she had checked her phone and noticed her mum had called her in the early hours, which is very unusual as she lives across the world with a large time difference. She stepped out the room to call her back. She would normally just ring back in front of me, and she always speaks to her mum in front of me. I assume she stepped out due to it being early and our little one may want to fall back asleep. She then came back after a few minutes and got ready for work. I looked through her phone and lo and behold, "Mr. Steele, your girl is the mystery missed call." I also look through the texts and find that she had also sent a good morning text with a selfie of herself under the covers that morning. I calmed down a bit and left them in the bedroom to nap later. And I blew up on her over text. I would have smashed something if I did it face to face. She admitted to emotionally cheating and kept apologizing, saying she doesn't understand why it happened, etc. Work stress. I wasn't there for her. She even kept lying when I had asked who was calling her this morning, trying to evade answering and even deleting the call log. After a barrage of texts filled with hatred from my side, I then asked her how we should move forward with 3 options. 1. Opening up the marriage. I do not want this, but wanted to know where she stands. If she said yes, compete deal breaker and I'm gone. 2. Divorce. Not sure how co-parenting will work from across the world. 3. Working it out between us. She kept evading again, not wanting to answer as she didn't know what she wants at this point. I then point blank just said, "As it stands, you are not ruling out that he is an option?" What killed me in her response, "I guess so, yes. But whether or not he'll actually pursue anything is a different story. ATM, I like talking to him. There isn't more to it." I had hoped she would be able to denounce that he is someone she is looking at all to be with. What's broken me is the way she can be so cold-hearted even after breaking my heart. I don't know if I'm expecting her to get on her knees and cry and beg for my forgiveness, but she has just gone cold and quiet and giving me space. At this point, I can't help but feel so fucking insecure and helpless. Spending so much time together thinking we were building something together, and not a broken home, no disrespect to single parents or those co-parenting with ex-partners, but I don't think I have the strength to even think about that situation right now. She asked where I stand after all this, and I said, "Honestly, I love you and our child is my priority. I don't know if we can work things out as I can't trust you right now." Am I being a fucking idiot crying over something like this? Has anyone been in this situation before and it then worked out between the two of you? If you decided to split, how was co-parenting been and finding a new partner? I'm so fucking angry, lost, and helpless. And I don't have any friends I'm close enough with to confide in. So thank you, Reddit. Plotter. Wife emotionally cheated with colleague, tried to hide it, admitted once confronted, forgive and work it out or leave. Story 3. My personal story, yes, it is a real story and discusses my cheating wife and the impact on a lifetime relationship. My question and would like advice. Based on this, am I crazy to try this again, and is it worthwhile at 60 years of age? I have read a lot of the stories, and there are some definite heartbreaking stories that sadden me to read them. My story is also pretty sad, but I do not think that I am able to convey the same level of bitterness and betrayal that some of the other writers and submitters have experienced. My story, of course, is sad, but also perhaps gives a different perspective that might be worth listening to. I'm not sure why I'm writing about events that took place so many years ago, but maybe it is just a way to show people that good things happen with time. And time and patience does seem to heal most things. I know this is a long post, but I think the history is important to know so people understand what happened. And that generates my question and request for advice. Based on this, am I crazy to try this again, and is it worthwhile at 60 years of age? I met my wife, and we were together for almost 10 years, which includes 7 years of marriage. We have 2 children who are now fully grown and have lives of their own. My wife and I met on a blind date, and it was awkward the entire night. My wife is an attractive woman with a vivacious personality. Me, on the other hand, am somewhat reserved and would not probably be considered as a head-turner. I'm not that bad on the eyes, but do not in any way claim to be a great heartbreaker. I'm also on the quiet side, and my wife always has been the person that people noticed at a party or an event. She also has a kind heart and is very empathetic to people and always looks for the good. Strangely enough, she seemed to like me and our relationship grew. Finally, we got married and began to build our life together. Our life was actually going very well. We had a nice home, good finances, supportive families, good friends, and our kids were doing well. But, as with many of these stories, there is a catalyst that can change everything. Our catalyst was a pregnancy. We had 2 young kids at the time and wanted to go for a 3rd child to have an even larger and happier family. We never had too many concerns in the bedroom, and we quickly had number 3 on the way. I was elated when my wife told me the news, and we waited about 3 months before we told the rest of our families about the new addition. During the next 3 months, we were busy with planning for the nursery, working with our kids on getting ready for the new baby, looking at finances, etc. It is perhaps the saddest day of my life when my wife called me to tell me that something was wrong with the baby. We got her to the hospital, and unfortunately and tragically, my wife had a miscarriage at the 6-month mark. We were both traumatized, and the trip back home next day was absolute silence and sadness. My wife went to bed that night and did not come out of that room for the next 3 days. She was absolutely overcome with sadness and depression. For some reason, she also believed that she had failed me as my wife. I told her again and again that this was an act of God. She did not do anything wrong, and we could try again when the time was right. But she did not believe me and still continued to blame herself for the whole situation and sunk into a depression. It took about 6 months, but she appeared to be coming out of her funk and seemed to be getting back to her normal self. We were both doing well with the kids. She seemed to have her personality back, and we were talking about the future. She also started to exercise and get back into shape. She really did look incredible, and I did enjoy giving her compliments and telling her how much I loved her. During this time, she also talked to me about getting a part-time job. It was not so much about the money, but more of a way for her to get out of the house and stay involved. I told her that was a great idea and encouraged her to think about what she wanted to do and to go for it. To my surprise, she got a job as a waitress and bartender at a restaurant right down the street from us. She has a degree in business but did not want to get a white-collar job. She thought the hours and responsibilities would be too much with our home and family, but this would get her up and moving. She would be able to earn some money for herself and feel like she was contributing. Plus, she said that she needed to work and talk with adults, and she felt this would get her out of her isolation at home. Once again, I told her that was great news and she should go for it. Now, I noted earlier that my wife is an attractive woman. I should also add that she is a voluptuous woman and was looking really great with her level of fitness and weight loss. She has never had a problem with attracting interest from men, but she also has always been loyal to me, and I never had reason to doubt her. She started her job and was doing well. She worked 2-3 nights per week and usually worked on a Friday or Saturday. I was somewhat uncomfortable with her work outfits because she wore clothing that accentuated her figure. It was tasteful, but I admit that I wish she would be more conservative. She laughed at me on this and told me it was a great way to bring in more tips, and perhaps her outfits would spur more romantic interest on my part. The owner of the restaurant was a good man and ran a good business. He was fair with his workers, and his family also all worked there. His son, to be honest, was somewhat of an arrogant jerk. He had been born into wealth and made no bones about living a nice lifestyle. He was about the same age as my wife, and I must admit he was a very good-looking guy. He was married but had no children yet. His wife is a lovely and wonderful person also. She also worked at the restaurant and handled the books. The son handled all of the catering and special events. At least he was supposed to do that. My understanding is that he was somewhat lazy and constantly dumped his responsibilities off on his family and coworkers. What he really liked to do was lift weights, work out, drive around in his fancy car, live off his family, and basically talk and brag about how great he was with women. I'm not sure how his wife dealt with all of this. He was admittedly a flashy guy, but the guy did not impress me in the least. I could tell from the first time I met him that he was not much more than a big-mouth windbag. My wife several times had commented to me several times that the guy was very good looking in an exciting way, but he was an arrogant toe rag, and she could not stand him. But she had to work with him and kept her mouth shut to get along. She did work with him on a consistent basis, and they then began to have some type of friendship forming. I was not overly concerned, but did tell her that this guy was trouble and she should be careful around him. During the next several months, my wife did begin to act peculiar. She kept a close eye on her phone, claimed she had to work late, and began to be absent for long periods of time, claiming that she was shopping or was running errands. She also began to ignore me to some extent, and I also thought she was not as attentive to the kids as she had been in the past. My wife is a good mother, but she seemed to be impatient at this time and had no concern with turning over more of the responsibilities to me. It was a challenge since I also work full-time and am the primary breadwinner of the family. I did tell her of my concern, but she told me things were going okay and I was seeing problems where there were not any. One night my wife and I were alone and it was fairly late. I made a move on her and she shut me down cold. I asked her what the problem was, and with that she started crying and shaking. I asked her what the problem was and then received the shock of my life. My wife told she had been seeing the owner's son for almost 6 months. The relationship had turned sexual. She loved him. We were done, and she was going to leave me to move in with him. She also told me that she had been deeply unhappy since the miscarriage and felt that something in our marriage had died. She needed a fresh start and she needed to be free to live her life. She also told me that she loved this guy and he could make her happy. I was obviously pretty shook up and asked her to reconsider. She told me it was too late for that and would be moving in with her new boyfriend into an apartment they had secured. I asked her about the kids, and she told me that it would be best if they stayed with me in the house to maintain a good home, and she would be there to see them. It is an understatement to say that I was absolutely shocked and flabbergasted at what had taken place. My wife told me that she did not understand the surprise since she thought I was well aware of her unhappiness with our marriage, and the miscarriage had been the final nail in the proverbial coffin. I was not pleased when I learned who she had a relationship with. It is one thing to get the complete shafting from your wife, and another to find out she was ditching you for a guy who was really a dirtbag. I do not want to make a generality, but there does seem to be some truth that so many women are attracted to guys like this. I'm not sure if it was his looks, flashy lifestyle, or his big mouth. But she apparently was interested in him and it took off from there. I was also shocked that she had been involved with him for 6 months without my knowing. They apparently had been having sex in his car, the restaurant, hotels, his house, our home when nobody was there, etc. It was a real betrayal, and I was deeply hurt. But I thought about what I would do and maintain my perspective and composure. What followed was several weeks of tears, sadness, cajoling, and really just a whole lot of crap. My family, and especially my dad, was furious and began saying terrible things about her. My wife's side of the family was also upset with the situation, but did not display the same level of animosity and bitterness that my side did. I actually had to intervene with my father and ask him to stop with the vitriolic insults against my wife. She was still the mother of his son's children, and he needed to show her respect as a grandfather. My father actually agreed and commended me on my approach to this whole situation. I told him that I did not believe there was any benefit for me by seeking revenge on my soon-to-be ex-wife. She was the mother of my children, and I would need to have an amicable relationship with her for the sake of our kids. Do not get me wrong. I would have loved to be in Saab, but thought long and hard about it. I think that I made the correct choice and in retrospect would have done the same thing. As I said, it was a rough couple of weeks, but she did move out and into an apartment with this guy. She did see her children and tried to be active in their lives. I also felt terrible for the wife of this guy, and she was mortified by what had taken place. She did leave the restaurant to get another job and did file for divorce. I would see her in the local grocery store on occasion and always wished her well. She was originally from Pennsylvania and eventually moved back to her home. I understand she did get remarried to a solid man and now has a good life and children. I wish her only the best. There is no question in my mind that her splitting with this guy is the best thing that ever happened to her. The divorce itself went smoothly. She did get some money out of me due to the division of assets. I did agree to pay some alimony support for a short period of time, which I think ended at 6 months. To me, it was a cheap way to get out of the situation. In fact, I probably would have agreed to any financial demand she would have made in order to be done with the situation. I was retained as the primary custodial parent, and she had 50/50th visitation. I told her that she was always free to stop and see her children. She did do that on many occasions, and things appeared to be somewhat stable. I also think she liked to see me when she came to visit the kids, but maybe that was wishful thinking on my part. My wife did not make a lot of money, but did make a small child support payment each month. To her credit, she did her best and never missed a payment when it came to her children. In retrospect, there is no doubt in my mind that my wife was going through some type of personal crisis due to the miscarriage and the aftermath of it. I'm not some great prize, but there is no way my wife in her right mind would have done what she did. But I was powerless, and there was not much I could do. The day we signed the divorce papers to make it final was surreal. Things had been amicable, but it was still tough. We met at her attorney's office, and it was a sad affair for me. I was saddened that she seemed so happy about the situation, and she was there with her dirtbag boyfriend. She almost seemed giddy about it, which really shocked me. We had been together for many years and had a family together. This was the only time I ever felt like she disrespected me during the whole divorce, but I let it roll off because there was nothing left to prove. The marriage was over, and we needed to move forward. When I signed the papers, I did see some regret in her eyes. I do think she had a look of shock on her face, since I remember what I said to her. I had thought about it and had already decided what I was going to say. I must admit that I am proud of what I said and how well it came off. I'm not an actor, but on this day I did have a flair for the dramatic. I had written it down and practiced it until I had it down, and this is what I said. I am of course sad about this. I thought we had a good life and were a good team. I apologize to you if you think I failed you because I was not able to bring you the happiness you wanted, and you thought somebody else would give you a better chance at happiness. I do think the miscarriage had a lot more to do with this than we realize. When tragedies take place, people either get closer and stronger, or there is separation and loss. I am sad and find it ironic that what should have been a happy experience for us is what destroyed us in the end. But that is in the past now. I want you to have a happy life, and we can work together to give our kids the happiest and most stable life we can. The room was quiet when I said this. Her face looked stark white, and I did see regret in her eyes. With that, I got up, shook her hand, wished her well, said goodbye, and her attorney told me he would send me a copy of the papers. Things went okay at first. She was living with this guy, but within several months chinks began to appear in their relationship. He apparently drank too much, was pretty much shiftless, lived off his family, and really was not much of a man. He also apparently had a wandering eye and was already lining up his next conquest. She was apparently a younger girl who worked in another restaurant, which was also owned by his father. Of interest is that I continued to order food from the original establishment. The owner would always greet me when I came in for my order and always had a look of embarrassment on his face. I would never stay in the place because that would have been awkward. My ex-wife was working there and was living with his son. If you toss in that he deserted his wife also, the owner was not pleased. He was a family man and told me once that he did not understand where he went wrong with his son. Of course, and to no surprise, things began to go downhill with this new, exciting power couple. They were fighting all of the time, and things were not going well for my ex-wife. I think my ex-wife was seeing that perhaps I was not that bad of an option, and things are not always greener on the other side. With me, she had a solid man who put her and the kids first. I was a good husband, and perhaps she had made a really poor decision. She did call me several times to lament about her life, but I told her that I was not the person to talk with about this. She answered that I had been her best friend and she could always talk to me. I told her that had been true, but things had changed, and I did not feel comfortable being part of the discussion, and she needed to work things out on her own with her new partner. I did not want to be involved in her relationships. She did agree, but I think that I could sense some hurt and regret in her voice when she hung up after I told her this. One night she had the kids over at her apartment with her dirtbag boyfriend to have a sleepover and watch some movies. That evening I had an upset call from her. Apparently, this guy had drank too much and was frustrated that the kids did not want to watch one of his shows. I'm not sure what the show was, but the kids apparently had no interest. So he got mad and slapped my youngest daughter because he thought she was being snotty. This was a hard slap and left a mark on her cheek, so I get a call and went right over there. My first inclination was to call the cops, and maybe I should have. But I did go over there to get my kids. I took my kids and left. I told him that I heard anything else from him about this, my next call would be to the cops, and then he would have real trouble. I do admit that I got some pleasure out of telling my ex-wife. And so this is what you left me for? She did not say anything but did hang her head. I think she was ashamed at what had taken place. I'm not sure if that meant she regretted the divorce, but I do think she realized what she had done and was regretful. Lo and behold, later that night I get a knock at the door, and there she is sobbing and was very upset. I did let her come in, and she told me that she had broken up with her boyfriend and wanted to come home. Now, I thought long and hard for several minutes and told her that I loved her, and we had history, but I could not do that. With everything that had taken place, I did not think it was a good idea for her to come back, and there were just too many sad memories. I would never have left the mother of my children alone on the street. She did come in, and she did call her parents. I took her there to stay. My former father-in-law met me at the door and thanked me. He told me that I had always been a good man and a good husband. He appreciated that I had put the kids first and did look after the safety of his daughter as my ex-wife. I did tell him that I would always love his daughter. Maybe things did not go the way we wanted, but I would not let harm come to her. To this day, I am proud of what I did on this night and what I decided to do to protect my kids and, in the end, my ex-wife. She lived at her parents' house for about a year until she could back on her feet. She did get a good job and moved into her own place. She was always a good mother, and her old vitality and spark returned. It was not perfect, but there was some sense of normalcy. She did have a string of relationships that did not go anywhere, and I think she was taken advantage of several times. Several times she would say to me that I was the best relationship she ever had and nobody else could compare. Maybe that was a lot of cheap talk, but I did like to hear it. All that being said, nothing romantic happened again between us, and I retained a cordial and respectful relationship with her. I could have been with her again if I wanted, but would not take that step. In my heart, I wanted to, but was basically scared of being hurt again. During this time, I had dated several women, but nothing serious from the relationship perspective. Several of them wanted more from me, but I was not going to go there. I was focused on work, my kids, and had really no interest in another marriage or a long-term relationship. There were just too many bad memories, and I decided that going solo was the best route for me. The years did fly by. My kids did well, attended college, had good careers, got married, and started families. I would see my ex-wife at family events on a regular basis. She would always ask me if I was seeing anybody, and it would always come around if there was still a chance for us to get back together. I always told her no, because in life some things stick and you cannot go away from them. She would always look sad and told me that her decision to leave me was the worst decision and mistake she ever made. She told me there is not a day that goes by when she does not think about what if. She also told me it was especially hard for her at events like weddings, birthday parties, and other family events. She told me that the toughest days for her from this perspective was at the funerals for her mother and father when they died. She was greatly saddened when she saw me there, but I was not there as her husband and partner. She knew that I was a strong man and good husband to her. But on these days she felt alone and had felt great regret. She also felt this way at the weddings for both of our children. She thought they would have been great days that we would have shared together. She asked me if I ever felt the same way. My answer has been that the experience was sad for me, but I decided to move forward and not look back. I always felt that her regret was ironic since she was so sure that true happiness was with a new boyfriend. We are now pushing 60, and I was thinking about hanging it up at work and moving somewhere warm, or at least for the cold months. My kids support me and do love their mother. The last time I talked to my ex-wife before moving was at a birthday party for one of our grandchildren. She asked to speak to me alone and we stepped outside. She then became very emotional and upset. She always thought there was a chance that we would get back together. My moving away would signify the absolute end, and that she had experienced a lifetime of regret for having failed as a wife. I told her so many years had gone past and that she should not feel that way. I had nothing but respect and admiration for her. She then asked if she could potentially come visit me. I told her that I did not know but would think about it. I admit that every single time I looked into her beautiful green eyes, my heart would melt. On this day, she looked exceptionally beautiful to me, and the years had been very kind to her. On this day, I must admit that regardless of what had taken place before, I never felt more intense love for her than I did on this day at this moment. At this point in my life, I thought that maybe I would welcome having a relationship with her again. I would not get remarried, but what did I really have to lose at this point? She did make me happy at one time, and my love for her had never went away. At this point of time in our lives, maybe we can go forward. I have been living in the Carolinas for the winter, and my ex-wife did come to see me. Crazy, I know, but all of the old feelings are still there. She stayed at my place and we went and did many things together. I am pleased to report that maybe we are older but learn that we still do well together with that special time. She was there for a weekend, but it stretched into 2 weeks and then into a month. One night she started to cry and sob because of what happened literally years ago. She told me that the past several weeks had brought her great happiness and she was so sorry for what had happened. She told me that she constantly thought about what if, and if she had wasted her life looking for some type of utopian relationship that cannot exist. I told her that was all in the past and maybe the time had come for us to move on and reconsider having a future together. I told her that I always loved her, my feelings for her had never died, and maybe she would like to come down and be with me permanently. I told her that I was not ready for marriage again, but did it really make a difference at this point in our lives? She agreed, actually never left my home, and things have been going great. The kids had a look of absolute shock on their faces when we told them, but they were also very happy for us. My youngest daughter, though, told me she was not really surprised because she knew that my love for her, mother had never died, and she had a feeling that things were not over. Some people reading this may think I am crazy for doing this again after so many years, but at this point in our lives, there is only love and respect. What happened so many years ago is in the past. Now, when I see my wife, and I admit that I always considered her to be my wife, I only feel love and affection. I think things will get even better and hopefully we will have good years ahead as we head into old age. She really made a bad decision, but that is in the past. I think we both faced the consequences, but I look forward to life and moving forward. Perhaps it is hokey, but one thing is important to me. I always thought we were writing a book together, but was saddened that we would never get a chance to finish it. I am pleased that we now have another chance to finish writing that book and including the final chapters. Would my wife cheat again? I do not think she would at this stage of our lives. But age and experience has shown me that all people are a mixed bag. There is good and bad in all of us, and one action or decision does not make or break a person. I have regrets also. My regret is that I always loved my wife and I let sad feelings dictate what I decided to do. Maybe I should have just recognized the fact that she is a human being and made a bad decision. Perhaps I should have given this a shot earlier and things might have been better. I do think about what if also, but am glad we have the second chance. With that, let me conclude and hopefully I have a perspective that some of you have been able to consider.